Quando Rondo dissing King Von and his family and Lil Durk's response going far beyond the recording booth is one of the most consequential escalations in rap history. The line between diss tracks and real-world violence got erased, and what followed changed lives on both sides forever. So Quando Rondo went after King Von's family, including his mother and his sister, in his bars. And Durk's response to that set off a chain of events that now has him facing federal charges. Let's start from the beginning. On the night of November 6, 2020, two rising forces in drill rap collided in Atlanta, Georgia. King Von, born Devin Cone Bennett, and his crew were involved in an altercation with Quando Rondo's crew outside of the Monaco Hookah Lounge in Atlanta. It was around 2:15 in the morning. The streets were mostly empty except for the luxury cars parked outside the venue, the kind of vehicles that signal money, status, and the success that rap had brought these young men from the streets. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation reported that 2 people were killed and 6 wounded in the gunfire that erupted outside the hookah lounge. The crime scene stretched across the parking lot. Shell casings scattered like breadcrumbs, marking the path of chaos. Emergency responders arrived to find multiple victims on the ground, blood pooling on the concrete, and the unmistakable aftermath of a shootout that had turned a night out into a tragedy. King Von, a 26-year-old Chicago rapper, signed to Lil Durk's Only the Family label, had been one of the most electrifying storytellers in drill music. Bennett gained recognition for his storytelling and distinctive lyricism, which often drew from his own experiences growing up in Parkway Gardens, colloquially known as O Block, a housing project on Chicago's South Side that had become synonymous with violence and the drill music movement. His breakthrough came with his 2018 single, Crazy Story, a track that showcased his ability to paint vivid pictures of street life with the detail of a novelist. The song wasn't just another drill track. It was a 3-act play condensed into bars, complete with characters, tension, and a climax. Fans dissected every line, matched references to real events, and turned Vaughn into one of the genre's most celebrated voices. He followed it up with Crazy Story 2, 0-0 and Crazy Story PT3, creating a trilogy that cemented his reputation as a master narrator. But Van's appeal went beyond just storytelling ability. He had authenticity that couldn't be manufactured. He wasn't rapping about a life he'd observed from a distance. He'd lived it. Born on August 9, 1994, Devin Bennett grew up in one of Chicago's most dangerous neighborhoods. During one of its most violent eras, he had faced multiple arrests and legal troubles before his music career took off. And that background gave his musical weight that resonated with listeners who knew that world and fascinated those who didn't. By 2020, King Von was on a meteoric rise. His single Took Her to the O peaked within the top 50 of the Billboard Hot 100. A remarkable achievement for a drill artist whose content was often too raw for mainstream radio. The success preceded the release of his debut studio album, Welcome to O Block, which achieved both critical and commercial success, peaking at number 5 on the Billboard 200. The album featured collaborations with established artists and showcased Van's range. He could deliver hard-hitting street anthems and introspective tracks with equal skill. He was building a legacy, stacking wins, and proving that drill rappers could achieve mainstream success without compromising their authenticity. He had escaped the cycle that had claimed so many of his peers, the trap of Chicago streets that swallowed young men whole. Or so it seemed. But that night in Atlanta, everything stopped. TMZ reported that previous to the brawl, Quando was napping in a car outside the nightclub, awakened to find King Von, his crew angrily approaching him and his associates. The situation escalated rapidly from that point. There was footage of Vaughn throwing punches at Quando Rondo prior to the gunfight, video that would later be dissected frame by frame on social media, analyzed and debated by thousands trying to piece together exactly what happened and who was at fault. The situation escalated from fists to bullets in seconds. What started as a physical confrontation, punches being thrown, bodies colliding, the kind of fight that might have resulted in bruises, and wounded pride, transformed into something far more deadly when guns were drawn. The night air filled with the sound of gunfire, people scrambling for cover, screams cutting through the chaos. One of the wounded men, while being treated for a gunshot wound, was placed in police custody for Bennett's murder. The suspect was identified as 22-year-old Timothy Lou Tim Leaks, a rapper affiliated with Quando Rondo. Leaks, who had been part of Quando's entourage that night, would become one of the most controversial figures in the entire saga. Video footage showed him firing shots during the melee, and he would later claim self-defense, arguing that he was protecting his friend from an attack. King Von was rushed to the hospital with critical injuries. Medical staff worked frantically to save him, but the damage was too severe. He did not survive. Devin Bennett was pronounced dead, and with him died the potential of what many believed would have been one of drill music's greatest careers. Now, just days before this deadly encounter, King Von had downplayed the fracture in an interview with DJ Academics, noting it ain't nothing too serious, and saying the internet was blowing it out of proportion. He seemed relaxed in the interview, dismissive of the tension that social media had amplified. When Academics pressed him about potential issues with Quando Rondo and NBA Young Boys camp, Von waved it off, suggesting it was just typical rap beef that would blow over. It was his last interview. Later that night, he ran into Quando at a club in Atlanta, fought him, and then was allegedly fatally shot by Wando's friend, Lil Tim. The timing was chilling. Van had just told thousands of viewers that everything was fine, that the beef wasn't serious, that he wasn't worried. Hours later, he was dead. The interview would be replayed countless times in the aftermath, with viewers searching for signs they might have missed, warnings that went unheeded. The roots of the tension went back to social media posturing and relationship drama, the kind of petty disputes that in another era might have remained just that, petty. But in the age of drill music, where authenticity is currency and perceived disrespect can be career-ending, nothing stays small for long. In August 2020, Van posted a picture holding hands with someone who fans pinpointed was likely Janie Messel, the mother of NBA Young Boy's child. The post sent shockwaves through social media, with fans interpreting it as Vaughn deliberately antagonizing Young Boy by getting involved with his baby mother. The next day, Young Boy posted a photo on Instagram with a caption many people think was aimed at Vaughn, firing back in the subtle but not really way that rap beef often unfolds online. During the same time frame, Quando Rondo and Lil Ree, another Chicago rapper closely associated with Lil Durk's crew, began trading shots on social media. The exchanges escalated quickly, with both sides posting increasingly aggressive messages and videos. Friends and associates picked sides, flooding comment sections with threats and challenges. The digital battlefield was getting crowded, and the rhetoric was getting dangerous. What started as internet chatter and subliminal disses turned into a real-world confrontation that took a life and set off a year's SL-long war. The transition from online posturing to actual violence is something hip-hop has struggled with for decades, but drill music accelerated the process. The demand for authenticity for rappers to prove they're really about what they rap creates a pressure cooker where backing down is seen as career suicide and escalation becomes almost inevitable. Things went beyond the point of resolution with Van's death. For Lil Durk, King Von was not just a label snage. He founded the Chicago-based collective and record label Only the Family in 2010, which included late rapper King Von, but their relationship predated the label and the music industry success. They were both from Chicago's South Side. Both navigated the same dangerous streets. Both understood the code that governed their world. Van was a close friend, a brother from the streets who had made it out, someone Durk had watched grow from the blocks to stardom. They'd shared studio sessions that stretched into early mornings, collaborated on tracks that became anthems, celebrated wins together. Durk had mentored Vaughn, helped him navigate the music industry, and watched him evolve from a street rapper into a legitimate star. The grief hit different, and so did the anger. In the drill community, loyalty isn't just valued, it's everything. The culture demands that you stand up for your people, that you respond to disrespect, that you never let an offense go unanswered. For Durk, Van's death wasn't just a loss of friend. It was a challenge to his entire reputation, his standing in the culture, his credibility as a leader. The streets were watching to see how he would respond. But what happened next? The disrespect from Quando Rondo's side directed at Van's family pushed everything to another level entirely. There are lines in hip-hop that once crossed can never be uncrossed. Going after a dead man's mother is one of them. 2 weeks after King Von died, while Quando Rondo released his song and a story, which was assumed to be a reference to Van's song trilogy. Crazy story. The title alone was provocative, suggesting that Quando was having the final word on the matter, that the story Van had told his trilogy was now over, and Quando was the one ending it. In the song, he recalls the shooting and addresses his involvement directly. The lyrics walked a careful line between justification and provocation. He again states that he was defending himself, that he wasn't the aggressor, that he had no choice but to respond when Vaughn approached him aggressively. But he also shows support for Lil Tim, who was charged with the murder of King Von, dedicating bars to his imprisoned friend and making it clear that he stood by the shooter. That track alone sent shockwaves through hip-hop. Radio stations debated whether to play it. Music journalists wrote think pieces about the ethics of releasing such a song. So soon after the incident, fans of King Von were outraged, flooding Quando's comments with threats and accusations. But Wando was not done. The rapper held a virtual concert on Saturday, April 3rd, 2021, and allegedly dissed the late King Von as part of his set. In a clip circulating on social media, Quando Rondo said words referencing Van's death that fans considered deeply disrespectful. The video quality was grainy, but the words were clear enough. The internet erupted in response with hashtags calling for consequences trending within hours. Quando then posted a photo of Lil Tim on his Instagram story while promoting his single. The image showed Lil Tim looking defiant, a visual reminder of the man who had ended King Von's life. In a follow-up post, Quando shared a screenshot of Lil Tim's name trending on Twitter and wrote in the caption, "My God home," with a pair of smiling emojis. Each post was perceived as a taunt directed at Van's grieving family and friends. Salt deliberately rubbed into open wounds. The social media warfare was relentless. Every few weeks, Quando would post something, a cryptic caption, a photo, a snippet of an upcoming song that the internet interpreted as a shot at King Von's memory. And each time the backlash would intensify, with Van's fans demanding that someone do something, that justice be served, that Quando faced consequences for his disrespect. Then came November 2022. Quando added more fuel to his rivalry with King Von, this time taunting the late rapper and his family on his latest project. The Never Broke Again Snee dropped a joint album with his label boss NBA Youngboy called 3860. And on the song Want Me Dead, he takes aim at Von and his sister Kayla B with a level of specificity that shocked even those accustomed to drill beef. The lyrics were pointed and personal. Quando's lyrics reference Lil Tim, the rapper who allegedly murdered King Von on November 6, 2020. Praising him for his actions and suggesting he was a hero for protecting Quando, he went after Van's sister directly, calling her out by name in the bars, questioning her character, mocking her grief. The disrespect was calculated and comprehensive, in what could be interpreted as rubbing salt in the wound of King Van's loved ones. Lil actually appears on 3860's opening track. His presence on the album was symbolic, a declaration that Quando wasn't hiding from what happened, wasn't apologizing, and was in fact elevating the man who had killed Von. The opening track featured Lil Tim speaking directly to the camera in the music video, unrepentant and defiant. And on another track from the same project, references were made to O Block Pack getting rolled up, referencing Van's Chicago neighborhood. The phrase smoking on someone is in drill culture one of the most degrading forms of disrespect imaginable. It treats a dead person like a blunt to be consumed, discarded, reducing their life and legacy to a substance to be burned up and exhaled. It's the ultimate form of disrespect in a culture that values respect above almost everything else. And here was Quando Rondo extending that treatment not just to King Von himself, but to his family, his mother, his sister Caleb, the entire bloodline. In drill music, there are unwritten rules about how far beef can go. You can diss a rival rapper. You can celebrate his death, as callous as that is. But going after the family, especially the women, and especially a dead man's mother, crosses a line that even the most hardened participants in drill culture recognize as sacred. Quando violated that code repeatedly and deliberately. He didn't just mention Van's family in passing. He made them central targets of his disses. He questioned their character, mocked their grief, and suggested that their pain was entertainment. Every new song seemed designed to inflict maximum emotional damage, to prove that Quando wasn't afraid of consequences, that he would say whatever he wanted regardless of who it hurt. King Von's family was not silent in the face of this onslaught. His sister Kayla B had been vocal on social media from the very beginning, responding to Quando, to Lil Tim, and anyone who celebrated her brother's death. She kept Van's name alive in the public conversation, posting throwback photos, sharing memories, and defending his legacy against every attack. But every time she spoke, Quando and his camp fired back harder, creating a cycle of provocation and response that seemed to have no end. Kayla B's posts were often raw and emotional, the unfiltered grief of a sister who had lost her brother to violence and was now watching his memory be disrespected in real time. She didn't have the platform or the resources that the rappers had, but she used what she had, her Instagram account, and her voice to fight back. She called out Quando directly, questioned his manhood, challenged him to face consequences for his words, and rallied Van's fans to keep his memory alive, and dropped a diss track of his own titled The Story Continues, directly targeting Quando Rondo and Lil Tim. The song was Range Rover Hang's attempt to continue the narrative that Von had started with his Crazy Story trilogy, to reclaim the story from Quando's in a story and assert that the final chapter hadn't been written yet. The track featured pointed disses and threats, and while it didn't achieve the commercial success of the songs from the main parties involved, It demonstrated how deep the conflict had spread through both families. The back and forth was relentless and exhausting. Every new track, every new Instagram post, every concert clip, every interview, it all fed the fire. The beef had taken on a life of its own, becoming a spectacle that fans followed like a reality show, dissecting every development and taking sides, as if they were personally invested. Comment sections became battlegrounds, and through all of it, Lil Durk was watching. He was the biggest name connected to King Von's legacy, the elder statesman of Chicago drill, the one with the most to lose and the most power to respond. The internet was watching him too, waiting to see what he would do. The slide for Von comments flooded his social media every single day. Thousands of messages from fans demanding that he take action, that he prove his loyalty to his fallen brother. The pressure was immense. Durk was caught between competing demands. The code of the streets that said disrespect must be answered. The expectations of his fans who wanted blood. The memory of his friend who had died violently. And the reality of his own success and everything he had to lose. He had a record label to run, a career that was reaching new heights, children to support, and a life that was finally pulling him out of the cycle of violence that had claimed so many of his peers. But the disrespect kept coming, and the pressure kept building. And eventually, according to federal prosecutors, Lil Durk made a decision that would change everything. Lil Durk's public response to Quando Rondo's escalating disrespect was initially measured, expressed through music and interviews rather than direct threats. But the undertone was unmistakable to anyone who understood the language of drill music, where coded messages and subliminal references often carry more weight than explicit statements. During an interview on Off the Record with DJ Academics asked Durk about the murder of Vaughn, describing it as an incident that changed everybody's lives irreparably. The statement hung in the air between them, heavy with the weight of all that had been lost. Durk responded in reference to Lulem with unmistakable contempt, his voice flat, but his eyes betraying the anger beneath the surface. When it brought up Quando Rondo, Durk referred to a rapper as a little boy, a dismissive term that carried layers of meaning. He wasn't worth Durk's time, wasn't on his level, wasn't man enough to be taken seriously. The Chicago rapper explained that at one point Rondo used to be yelling support for King Von, showing old social media interactions where Quando had praised Van's music and claimed to be a fan. The revelation added another layer of betrayal to the situation. This wasn't just beef between rivals. This was a fan who had turned on someone he once admired, making the disrespect even more personal and painful. But Durk was walking a tightrope, and he knew it. He was a man on the precipice of mainstream greatness, finally achieving the kind of success that drill rappers from Chicago had been chasing for years. At the 66th Annual Grammy Awards, Lil Durk won his first Grammy after 3 previous nominations. He won Best Melodic Rap Performance with the song All My Life featuring J. Cole, a collaboration with one of hip-hop's most respected lyricists. The win was validation of everything Durk had been working toward. Proof that drill music could be embraced by the establishment without losing its edge. He was considered the most commercially successful drill rapper alive. A man who had navigated Chicago's South Side, one of America's most dangerous neighborhoods, and arrived at the very pinnacle of the music industry. Grammys, platinum plaques, arena tours, collaborations with mainstream artists who wouldn't have touched drill music a few years earlier. Features on pop songs and R&B tracks that expanded his audience far beyond a drill fan base. He had become a crossover success story. Proof that you could come from the streets and still make it to the top of the legitimate music business. But beneath the polish and the industry accolades, the pain from losing King Von had not dulled, and neither had the rage. The Grammy win should have been the happiest moment of Durk's career.